Okay, I'm gonna start with this recording in a bit different way. Funnily enough, clearly there's something. I don't know if it's a message or what. My computer's been glitching, literally off and on. And then when I log into the thing to record, usually my microphone is set already, and it wasn't set how it should be. It was off, and it was. So I basically did this whole recording, and I'm gonna be doing it again because my microphone wasn't working the first time, and hopefully nothing goes bad this time. So bear with me. So what I want to talk about is when it comes to praisers in the pulpits, praisers behind the pulpits, like people who praise behind the pulpits even when no one's looking, and praisers of the pulpits, people who worship the pulpits and worship the ministry. And there's a very big distinction between the two, because oftentimes we see them and we see two different people like that, and we don't realize they're different. We don't see the difference, but there's a big difference, especially when they get elevated to that position. Because I've seen it myself. There's many people in churches all around America where they are worshipers of the pulpit and worshipers of the status. And you don't realize that until they get elevated to that status. And there's people who keep and stay the same and keep worshiping God even when they are promoted. The best example I can think of that is Saul's and David's, right? Saul, when he was first seen by God to be anointed the first king, God still chose him even though the people were against him, against God. He still chose him. And Saul said when Samuel talked to him, he said, "Am I not a Benjamite of the smallest tribe of Israel, and my family the least of all the families of the tribe of Benjamin? Why then do you speak to me this way?" See, Saul, before he was king, he was humble. He was in humility. He even took that humility of saying, "We're the least of the people. Why do you speak to me this way? Why do you talk to me like this when I'm a nobody?" Right? He didn't take pride and say, "That's what I deserve," or "That's how you should speak to me." He said, "Why?" He said, "You're treating me well. Why?" But when he was elevated king and when he went to those parts and places where he was in power, notice how he changes. Notice how he started acting more selfish. He started doing things incorrectly, and he stopped listening to God. He stopped praying to God. He stopped taking the actions he should have, and he started taking what he believed. And then when he found out David was going to take his throne, he wanted to kill the kid. He didn't want to say, "God, let your will be done." He said, "I'm going to let my will be done. I'm going to let my crown not pass and my crown stay the same." He didn't say this exactly, but he basically in his actions said, "I will do anything to keep this blessing God has given me. I'm not going to let this kid take it." Well, why do so many of us do that too? So many of us, right? In the beginnings, we're humble and we say to God, "Lord, I will stay with you through all things." And we pray like we should, and we take the steps like we should, and we take these things seriously. But why do we, when we get promoted and we get put in these high places, do we take selfishness and we stop doing as much? Even in the smallest things, right? And even when we steward the little things and we ask God, "Well, I'm ready," he says, "Wait, you're not. You still need to work on this. You're not ready for this. You're good at this level, but we can't get you higher, because if we let you higher, you might go into the wrong places." And remember, God didn't want Israel to have a king. The people did. So Saul was put into a place that God never wanted him to. He still chose him, and Saul was great for a while, but he was not ready. He was not prepared. He let selfishness creep in. And the best example of someone who praised even with the crown on, and even behind the pulpit, and even behind those areas, was David. Again, David had a different way. When David got in the crown, and even before that, he was a worshiper of God through everything he did. He didn't care if God took the crown or not, or he didn't care if he was given the opportunity to kill Saul that's been trying to kill him. He said, I will not touch the Lord's anointed. I will not let me hinder the will of God. Even when he's in this high place, he's still willing to be humble through it. And we should strive to be like him. And he made his mistakes, yes, but it didn't hinder God's will as much as Saul's did. Because David's still called, even today, a man after God's own heart, even after he made those mistakes. Because guess what? He repented, and he turned back to God, and he went back to his correct ways. And he stayed in his humility. Yes, he rose at one point, and yes, he failed. But he wasn't past the point at that point to do it on his own. And you also have to realize this failure of Saul, that's why God took him out of the place. So many of us, we think we're ready, and then we finally get what we ask for, and we see that we're not ready, and God has to take us out. He gives us to our wishes, and he has to take us away from the things that of his blessings. And when it comes to his blessings, we can't be looking forward to the next one, to the next one, to the next one, because we start to idolize our blessings as we do so many times our ministry. And in that, we have to start to say to ourselves, God, even if the blessings don't happen, I will still praise you, even through those points. Because at that point, we start to become less of a worshiper of our ministry, more of a worshiper of God. We start to put our flesh on the altar and start to put him on the pedestal. John the Baptist says, I need to decrease so that he may increase. We need to decrease so that God may increase. We need to put ourselves in a humble position, even in those parts of ministry, or even in those small things, that God may bless us, so that we may work on ourselves and that he may refine us. As someone who works on swords and metal puts the metal through the fire to take its impurities out. We cannot expect God to put us in a place of ministry if we have the mindset of Saul, if we have the mindset that I'm going to keep this. Because look what happened to Saul. He came to destruction. But look what happened to David. One after God's own heart. His ministry went past him. And Solomon became a king. David's ministry still continued, even with the mistake he made, because he was a man after God's own heart. He was someone after the Lord. Saul wasn't. He might have been at the early parts, but he wasn't cut out to be as David did. I know the video is short, but if you would, subscribe, like, maybe leave a comment so I can reach more people, and this message will be able to reach as many as it needs to, and that it may reach someone that maybe God's going to use this for. Thank you for watching.